Oh, oh, how did I get here? Anyways, today we are looking at some generals, trade in my place, and ask ourselves, on this basis, if they are still relevant to this state. Without putting too much place on my shoulders, I gotta say, I have a very unique way of writing. You have to familiarize yourself with it to understand my works. For once, I often like to combine words to make them more nuanced. Here are also some common words you guys with your joke of a language can understand. This special type of language makes my words more vivid and expressive. Think of a painter who is able to invent new colors for his paintings. But enough of that. Let's take a look at some general. We'll start with the taming of the shrew. The play is about a nobleman telling the drunk man a story about the father trying to marry his two daughters. One of the daughters, Bianca, has no struggle in attracting men, while the other one, Katharina, is a petty character. In an effort to marry them both, the father then announces that Bianca will not marry until Katharina is. One of the guys who wanted to marry Bianca then finds a friend who would marry Katharina. He found the broke Petruchio willing to do the job. After this event, they both marry pretty quickly. Petruchio then humiliates his wife by not allowing her to sleep or eat until she finally obeys him. In the end, all the characters feast together, and the men decide to do a competition whose wife is the most obedient. Unexpectedly, for all the other characters, Petruchio wins the competition. After that, Katharina does her final speech, seemingly calling out all the other women. All right, we'll focus on Katharina's final speech. In Katharina's final speech, there are several descriptions of an imagery describing the roles of men and women in their culture. First of all, Katharina describes that angry women are unpleasant to look at. This way, she highlights the trope that women should always smile, be calm, and happy.
Muddy, ill-seeming, thick, bereft of their beauty.
After that, she describes the husband as a leader and even goes as far as calling the husband the wife's entire life,
Thy husband is thy lord, thy life, thy keeper, thy head, thy sovereign, one that cares for thee.
which indicates reliance, indicates that the woman is not able to live without the husband. However, she goes even further, even calling a woman too simple when she does not obey her husband.
What is she but the foul, contending rebel and graceless traitor to her loving lord? I am ashamed that women are so simple.
Which is kind of a double meaning. For irony, is a woman truly too simple when they obey? That's for you to decide. Then she goes on ranting about her own womanhood, not even deeming a woman comparable to men.
The strength is weak, our weakness past compare.
Going back to the title, Petruchio is taming the shrew inside his wife using cruel methods. Catherine does not have any power and gets forced into the marriage by her father, while her husband only married her because of the dowry he got. In the end, however, their relationship has changed quite a bit. Catherine is unconditionally obedient. This may sound like she is having no power at all, but by being obedient towards her husband, she is able to boss around the other ladies, because she is in a better stance with her husband than them. It's almost like she and Petruchio are working together and just play a little game, in a way. They're both outwitting the people who look down upon them in the beginning of the story. This hopefully gets you, the reader, thinking about traditional gender roles and how different various marriage relationships can be. All right, next one is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is about two young lovers from feuding families in Verona, Italy. Despite their families' hatred for each other, Romeo and Juliet fall deeply in love and secretly marry. However, their love is ultimately doomed as a series of misunderstandings and tragic events leads to their untimely deaths. Juliet's father plays a fairly significant role in the play. That's why we're talking about the father-daughter relationship of them. They do have quite a convoluted one, that's for sure. Also, Father Capulet arranged a marriage without asking his daughter, Juliet, whether or not she would like to marry the person he picked, which was arguably conventional at the time the play is situated. Capulet states that he did arrange it in the best of will towards her.
Alone in company, still my care hath been to have her matched.
Showing that he kind of only wants the best for her. After Juliet then complains about it, he gets angry that she isn't thankful for his efforts.
Doth she not give us thanks?
He's disappointed that she isn't happy about the marriage he arranged for her. Juliet then tries to explain that she indeed is thankful, but just isn't comfortable with her match.
Proud I can never be of what I hate.
She's thankful that her father cared for her, but tries to tell him that she hates the arrangement. Capulet then refuses to understand her point of view and does not listen to her.
Speak not, reply not, don't answer me.
This shows that Capulet definitely sees his daughter as inferior. Even though he wants the best for her, she is disposable. In a way, Juliet is a product he felt like he built a lot of care into. He wants it to be in good hands, but the product itself should obey his plans. Well, that's an analogy you capitalist people are hopefully understand, I hope. Capulet sees it as its duty to get his daughter a husband and expects gratitude for his actions. All in all, Capulet embodies the traditional gender roles, whereas Juliet rebels them by initially choosing a husband herself. Next, we are looking at the mighty, the powerful, that is sometimes scared Macbeth. I wrote a play about a Scottish general named Macbeth who receives a prophecy that he will become king. Driven by his ambition and encouraged by his wife, Macbeth murders King Duncan and becomes king himself. However, his guilt and paranoia lead to the series of violent events that ultimately result in his downfall and death. Yeah, because this is about generals, I'll focus on Macbeth's marriage. Just like I already mentioned, Lady Macbeth plays a key role in the story. She is initially portrayed as dominant and manipulative towards her husband. She manipulates him by questioning him and his valour.
Art thou feared to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art desire?
In the end, she succeeds in making him act in her will through manipulation. Macbeth quickly questions his actions and becomes mentally unstable due to his guilt. His wife, however, lacks any empathy towards her husband's deteriorating mental state.
Things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done.
Overall, Lady Macbeth challenges traditional generals by advocating for her husband to become more violent and aggressive to gain power. There are also some less significant characters who embody cliché generals. Lady Macduff, for example, is portrayed as a loving and devoted wife and mother who is unable to defend herself when attacked by murderers.
Do I put up that womanly defense to say I've done no harm?
This reinforces the idea that women are physically weaker and need men's protection. The portrayal of Banquo as a loyal and honorable friend of Macbeth reinforces traditional ideas about male loyalty and friendship.
Worthy Macbeth, we stay upon your leisure.
Aye, and there we are, at our grand conclusion. Gender roles are important themes in my works. They are often reflected in the relationships between male and female characters. In The Taming of the Shrew, I try to portray the traditional patriarchal society of the time and the expectations that women should be obedient and subservient to men. However, I also managed to challenge these expectations by giving female characters a strong voice and agency. With Romeo and Juliet, I explored the societal expectations and restrictions that hinder love between the two protagonists. Juliet, in particular, challenges traditional gender roles by speaking out and asserting her own desires, even in the face of opposing from her family and society. In Macbeth, I portrayed the traditional gender roles of this time, with Lady Macbeth challenging these roles for her ambition and manipulation towards her husband. However, just like her husband, she ultimately falls victim to the consequences of their violent actions and cannot escape the guilt that follows, which makes them strangely equal in a way, if you think about it. Overall, my works obviously demonstrate the complexities of gender roles and the ways in which they can both shape and be shaped by the individual characters and their actions. While some characters adhere to the traditional gender roles, others challenge and subvert them, highlighting the ongoing struggle for gender equality and the limitations imposed by social norms. Therefore, the insights I created into the complexities of gender roles and the social norms continue to appeal to modern audiences, making my works still relevant today. Well, that's enough modernism for the day. I'm going to leave this capitalist sinkhole again, and glad I didn't live during this time. See you soon. Probably. Hopefully not.